What in the heck? Anyway, good evening, YouTube. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to get this thing to work here. Why is it not working? There we go. Listen, so I have to tie my hair tonight because, whenever I get this feeling to cover my head before I come on live, then that is exactly what I do. This place is stranger danger. These are people come in live and come in my chat and talk to me like I know them and like expect answers and stuff. Look, you're gonna get your feelings hurt over here if like, you know, a lot of gang stalkers in the comments, they come in and it's like the desperation to make a connection. There's too much. YouTube is one of the most of all the apps. It's one of the most like you are a stranger app. Like nobody responds to comments on their YouTube. Nobody, like, this is just a place for giving information as I see it. So let me just sage myself because people take a lot of opportunity to do a lot on this app. So I'm just doing, what I made a commitment to do, which is to come on here. Because if I didn't have to commit to it, people wouldn't see me at all. So tonight I want to talk about the gang stalking journey in general. I have 3 general points to make. And, at this point, I just wonder, like, and I guess I do all the time, but I just really wonder, like, is it just gang stalkers that are on this? I have absolutely no idea. I have no idea whatsoever. And this situation is crazy because people get involved in gang stalking and don't realize that the clients who are paying for this are not, like, these are not people that you want to be involved with. You don't know if you are being a gang stalker for the Russian mafia, or sorry, for the, yeah, Russian mafia, Italian mafia, for the mob, for who, like, you really don't know who has paid you to harass people, and it's crazy. So this is the kind of nonsense that a lot of people have to deal with on their, on their social platforms or whatnot. And it is what it is. For anybody that tonight, my live is for people who are actually going through gang stalking, people who are actually having an issue with being harassed, not for people who are trapped because they made a decision to destroy other people's lives. It's for people who are actually going through a tough time, who are innocent and had no parts in anything. So the first thing is, this is a life cycle. And I think it's really important to be said because it's a rough cycle. The thing is, everything in life it's cyclical. It continues to change, whether for good, whether for bad, it has to change. So there's a particular time period on you going through gang stalking, just like anything else. You can think back to like past cycles in your life. I try to really impress this on people because there are people who say, well, you'll never escape it or it'll never end. There's a lot of that. Now, knowing what we know about the gang stalking community in general, knowing what you know about the information that these people fight so hard to put out there, this information could just generally come from gang stalkers. I've experienced in people telling their stories many incidences where people have said no, after 2, 3, 5 years or whatever, it stopped, and it stops on its own. This is a cycle. In any cycle that you go through, you're here to learn lessons from the cycle. You're here to grow. You're here to transform. That is never easy. And I feel like if you're in a gang stalking cycle, it is like 10 times more important to learn your lessons, whatever they are. Now, my lessons, I always recognize where there's a lesson. And I also realized that the sooner that I learned a lesson, the quicker that particular phase or episode would close. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but there were just multiple instances where I had my aha moment and I was like, oh, that's what I was supposed to learn. I learned it, I was done, and then it moved into another episode. So it wasn't that everything was done right away. It was just that at least that particular lesson was done. And some of these things are very tough. So what does that tell you? You need to actually learn lessons from being in this cycle. If you're noticing that there are patterns of behaviors, that there are patterns of things that continue to happen, you need to address those things. You need to modify your behavior. You need to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I be better? Sometimes the lesson is not always obvious. Sometimes the lesson is counterintuitive to say what society might say, or what, you know, your parents told you, or what, you know, what you think is the right thing. It's not necessarily lessons that you need to learn because you just need to learn how to be kind or how to be forgiving or whatever. It's a lesson you need to learn in order to move into the new cycle. That's why a new cycle is blocked off from you, because you're not learning. So what ends up happening is you go through your cycle, as tough as it is, as difficult as it is, you learn your lessons, and then you graduate out of the cycle. Everything is, in my experience, my life experience, cycles close very like incrementally, slowly. They slowly close out, and when new cycles start, you don't just burst into things being better right away. It's very, you still have to use, again, the lessons that you learned in the last cycle is what assists you in opening your new cycle. So if in the last cycle you were supposed to learn, you know, how to be assertive, you're going to need to be assertive to properly open the new cycle. You're not just learning lessons to learn lessons. You got to learn lessons, get the point, and then you can move on into the next cycle. Which, of course, and it starts the same way, and I explained this in another video. It starts like the tarot cards. It's like numerology in the sense where, you know, you start in the ones, you work your way up, then the problems start. Then you have to learn more lessons. You have to conquer that situation. Another cycle closes, and that's how growth occurs over your life. If you refuse to learn a lesson, if you don't get the lesson, because the lesson, it's almost like multiple times in the lesson, it's going to be taught and retaught. If you refuse to get the point, if you refuse to learn, you have to repeat the cycle. And you're going to repeat a more aggressive version of that cycle. But every once in a while, it's like, and I don't know if this is related to what kind of karma you have or not, but I could tell you, for example, the people in this cycle with me are not making it out of this cycle, as far as like whatever new cycle they enter is not a new cycle to learn these lessons again. They've had opportunity. It's like, it's done. It's done. Like you've had your chance type of thing. So there's always that. You know, my advice for, you know, people going through this and just, it's grueling, it's tough, your back is against the wall, you're wondering when is it going to end, because believe me, I have gone through that version, I've gone through that phase of it. You got to relax through it. It's like clenching through it, holding your breath. It's like anything else. It's like working out, and the workout is tough. There's you can't hold your breath through it. You got to breathe through it, relax, and just take it day by day, and just kind of figure like, what can I learn from this situation? Now, one of the biggest things that I learned from my situation was how to continue over and over in, when one door closes, finding another way to get something done, looking into it, educating myself, researching, trial and error. It has been constant, and that's been like a huge thing that I've had to do. I have had to figure out how to continue, how to never give up, essentially. And which, in a sense, it's like you kind of look at the lessons that you're learning and you kind of get a little bit nervous, because you're like, why am I learning to be so endurant? Why am I learning to go through spiritual battles that are this persistent? Why am I learning all of this stuff? Clearly, the cycle that you're moving into is going to be tumultuous. It might start off great, but when it gets bad, it's going to get bad. And you can just assume, I look at like the lessons that I learned in the past, and I don't know if it's just my perspective. Maybe my perspective is because I actually learned that lesson, graduated, and now I can keep jumping that hurdle easily. It's not even a hurdle anymore. It's just like procedures because I've done it so much. Maybe that's why it doesn't seem like it's a very difficult thing to do. But at the time, or actually, if I look at it, I can't tell if it was a harder lesson or if the lessons are getting harder or just that I've graduated and I've learned. One thing I can say though, what used to be very difficult, which is putting up with spell work, which is cleaning my energy, which is dealing with gang stalkers, which is dealing with distractions, dealing with people being on my laptop or my devices. All of these things are just like whatever to me. It's like part of the scenery now. So that is part of what you're learning. You're learning how to, and especially with gang stalking, every single thing that they make an issue, if you cannot deal with it, like if you cannot solve that issue, then you have to learn to deal with it and make it a part of your scenery. If you are going to be getting constant spell work all the time, then you have to get really comfortable with just dealing with spell work. If you're going to be dealing with constant slander, you got to deal with just people slandering you, and you got to be able to know how to maneuver in a room with slander. And that is just what it is, because you're not getting out of this. There is no escape route. There's no like exit. You are here. So you have to make the most of it. And you have to almost take it as it's probably gonna be worse the next time it's happened. And the reason they need me to learn this is because they don't need me breaking down when this happens. So what's end up happening with me is I need less and less recovery time from a bunch of things. And I would say like yesterday I was talking about the 3 biggest lessons I learned, and those are like emotional lessons. But I would say right now, it's like if I had to think about all the lessons I've learned and all the things that I've had to do, and the bulk of it being self-taught, or I would say taught by my spirit guides. It's not anything where I would have to feel like there's anything that I cannot accomplish, or there's nothing that I can't get over, there's nothing that I can't figure out. Now, if that put me just in that frame of mind alone, then it's 100% worth it to have gone through a situation that builds you up where you are pretty damn certain that you could get through anything. Maybe you don't know how to get through it today. You don't have all those skills, but you have the confidence to do it. And I really feel like that's where you should be with it. So I always say to endure, but more so it's like learn from it, relax into it, and just know that don't count the days. It's like sitting there watching like a pot of water boil. Get through it, let it do its thing, learn about yourself, practice skills, etc. It is a cycle, and it's best to think about it as a cycle. It will end. Like I keep saying, nobody's gonna gang stalk you forever. That is something I know to be true, not I think to be true. There has to be a time limit. Someone's paying for it. Second one, and this is a recent one that came up. So I have always, from the time I've come on here, I've always said, I do not want to portray myself as perfect. I am going through things. Now, coming on here, first of all, this wasn't something that I really wanted to do, but I understand why it's important for it to happen. I understand why. And then I kind of had a feeling early, like just in the middle of being gang stalked, that would have probably been part of it anyway, because if you get through something like this, there's no way God's going to take you through this and not. And I even knew it, and to the point that whenever I used to pray, I would say like, if anybody asks me how I got through this, there's no way I'm saying anything other than the truth. I'm saying it's, my God. Regardless of how anybody feels about it, that's their personal business. It has nothing to do with me, and it has nothing to do with the truth. So I was never gonna pretend it was anything other than what it was, and I felt like doing that would be a betrayal. The thing is, God was pushing me to come and tell my story long before. It's like the cycles were just, there was still more phases to go through. There's still more phases to go through now. Though I know that I'm close to the end, there's still more stuff to go through. And more strength is needed. But I was coming online and constant attacks, people constantly in my energy. And it has been more than, it's like I have had to learn how to deal with these things while still sharing of what I've gone through. Now, the issue with that is nobody is more attacked than somebody who's giving very critical information, especially when the people that they're giving the information against are people who have money or connections or whatever it is. So I knew, like, obviously I knew the channel was going to be attacked. Obviously I knew, there was going to be a lot of fake pages. I was just like, "Oh, here we go." Because if they were cyberbullying me on my work platform where I don't share any of myself at all, I can only imagine what people would be doing on this platform. So I knew all of that was coming. But, things like people projecting rage on me and projecting all these kinds of emotions and stuff, that's not something that I was prepared to do now, or to deal with publicly. Now, it's almost like somebody is taking their rage of their poor decisions. People are taking out their rage of their poor decisions because they couldn't take me out. They're taking that rage out on me. And it's like they are desperately looking for any way to paint me into something that I'm not. It's been the agenda from day one, is to, like, take away who I am and make me into someone else totally. And, me coming on here, I've constantly said, like, please, I am a human being like everybody else. All I'm doing is I'm sharing my journey, I'm sharing what I've been through, and I'm just giving advice that people need to take the advice. My advice is not one size fits all. I talk about the fact that I'm being pursued by the cartel, and I think that the show of strength that I've come up here with has been, it's been something that I think maybe makes people not take the word cartel very seriously. I think because I'm not coming on here crying and like begging and pleading for help, it makes people not take that particular word seriously. So they take it as, I don't know how people are taking it. I know that some of the trolls must be taking it a little bit more seriously and must realize like what they're kind of involved in, because you see obviously a lot less trolls, a lot less comments, a lot less people in my, in my chat section, etc. However, this is very real and this is real life. This is not a joke. This is a real life thing. It is real life dangerous. The people gang stalking me are real life terrified and probably want to take their own life. They probably don't want to be here, to be honest with you. That's how I see it. Now, I say all this to say, and I talk all about spirituality on this channel. I talk all about spell work. I talk all about energy work and all of that stuff. I say all of that to say, today, I come on here and I give advice, and I give literally the best advice that I can give. I have said before, whether you are a gang stalker, whether you are a victim of gang stalking, or whether you're a random person that found this channel, it is still important information to have. God forbid, okay? I'm still human though. You need to take the advice and you need to figure out how it can work for you. You need to take the general sort of patterns of thought, the general thoughts that I'm giving, and try to apply it to yourself. However, I'm not perfect, because nobody gets attacked more than someone with spiritual gifts, first of all, someone who is not dark, second of all, people who tell the truth, people who are whistleblowers of some sort, the advice that I give doesn't just necessarily affect people who are being gang stalked. It exposes this organization for what they truly are and what they truly do to people. There's a lot of people that may know that they're drug mules, but they don't know it's the cartel. Because if they heard this gang has such a bad reputation, that if they knew that, they wouldn't join. And maybe if they find it out or they want to leave, then the gang stalking happens. It's a terrifying thing. They don't enjoy that I'm out here speaking publicly about this. I am just a human being. The point I'm making here is you really can't listen to anyone 100%. Once you're being gang stalked, it's like you got to take everything with a grain of salt and you got to look at people twice. And it doesn't matter who it is. The people gang stalking you want to get to you by any means necessary. They will spare nothing. You already kind of know that. But sometimes what happens is lessons don't sink in for us the way that it should. Because we're humans, and that emotional part, it disrupts things all the time. So sometimes it's like you can hear something and maybe not take it 100% like seriously like you should, or you've seen signs but you're like, no, this person's different, no, that person can be like, listen, I've seen this over and over and over and over and over and over in the last 2 years. I don't know how new you are, but you can't even try. You have seen people flip faces on you all the time. It's a new world. And obviously, if you need to continue forward and not get stuck in this cycle, you have to adapt to it. You have to adapt to what is going on. I've come to a place where I've realized like God lets things happen. It's God knew the whole time it was happening, was watching it happen, and it had to happen so you could learn. Like I said, throughout me going through this process, it's like life has slowed down to a point where it's not just that I can see things happening, but I can see why they're happening. I can just break it down and be like, oh, okay. If something is happening, it's because it had to happen. And so I don't have, like I said, I'm no longer in a situation in my life where I need a lot of recovery time from things falling apart or things not working out or whatnot. Like it just is what it is. So you see something, you see it for what it is. You're glad you escaped it. You're glad you didn't get caught up in it, and you just move on. And that's it. You will be shocked a lot. You will be taken aback a lot. You will be gang stalked by children, old people, anyone. Anyone, people you have known for forever, and everybody has their own reason why they're doing it to you. You're gonna have people who are, it was money, people who just didn't like you anyway, people who are in competition with you, people where it was like, I don't know, people in your family that I don't know what it was, but there's always going to be a reason. It might not always be the same reason, but you're really looking at the same result as you move forward. And I would just advise, instead of you feeling down and out about it, and you are a human being and you are going to feel down and out about it, but I want to say this to you. Lower vibrational emotions, sadness, depression, feeling down on yourself, they wait for when you feel down, and that is when they can get attacks in. If you're generally high vibrational and you stay protected in your environment and you pray and you do everything that you're supposed to, attacks are less likely to come through. So if you're not up on your spiritual, your spiritual hygiene, I'm going to call it, and your practice and your routine, you want to stay out of your feelings as much as possible so things don't hit you. And this is true even scientifically. Like if you are in bad spirits, if you're down, you're more likely to get sick. You're more likely there was someone who told me that like something like cancer comes like, let's say 5 times in your lifetime, and you don't know. But the time that you catch cancer is either when you're going through something like emotionally, or when your immune system is weak or something happens. So it does come and it doesn't stay unless there's like an opening. And it's the same with your emotions and when you're sent spiritual attacks. You need to remain high vibrational, and you need to jump over things. Jump over little hurdles. Sometimes little things will happen to annoy you and you gotta leave it alone and go to the next thing. Sometimes something doesn't work right away. Sometimes, something doesn't work for you. If it's not working, it's because it's not supposed to. You gotta move on and you gotta not have a fallout about it. You have to find another way. You gotta keep going. Like, I've gotten so good at this because there was a point where I used to just expect things to not go right no matter what I did. If I went to go like unzip a bag, I'd expect the zipper to get stuck. So because I was so accustomed to it, it wouldn't affect me where I would like have a meltdown or lose my mind. It'd just be like, oh, okay, well, it's not working. Toss the bag, go do something else. In the middle of being gang stalked, that's the kind of attitude you need to have. And it's not going to be right away, but eventually you're going to be beaten down enough that it is going to be the way that you're going to do things. You're going to just be beaten down into just realizing, like, I cannot let things get to me. I get a notice in the mail that I don't like, or like an email I don't like, we just move forward. That's it. You can't, like, and maybe that was the lesson. The lesson was maybe just how not to let things get to you. It's still gonna get to you, but giving it a reaction, giving it an emotional response, that is where you want to draw the line. So things happen, they occur, and you have to remind yourself it's not the end of the world. And that's it. As far as trusting people and listening to people, it's like bad news. And people know that, but it's like that lesson needs to like seep in. It needs to seep in. And if it doesn't, whenever it comes up, you're going to fall into it again and again and again and again. The lesson needs to seep in. It needs to seep in that you really are in this on your own. You are. And you're going to think about parents, about children, about like, you got to be ready at any time to face any kind of news. And it's really sad. People that are gang stalked are, it's like, I don't know anyone myself, but I would just assume people have to leave family behind. People have to leave children behind, adult children, obviously. People get kids taken away from them. And who knows what kind of relationship they have with whoever took the kids. It's like, it's bad. So really, there is just no one that you can say, no human being at that point that you can say, I have this person in my corner forever. You just got to get used to just how people behave. And this is the world that we live in. So I was going to liken my advice to recipe building. What can I say about that? So I bake a lot. I bake like we all do. I bake like all kinds of things, not just bread. I show bread, but I do all kinds of things. And one of the things that I do, and I don't know if other bakers are like this, but one of the things that I know is that I cannot follow a recipe straight off of the internet or even a recipe book, just like saying, okay, I'm gonna make this thing for the first time and follow it from the recipe book and it's gonna be like fine. The first time you make something new, you cannot be making it to serve to people or enjoying it yourself. The first time you make something, you literally, like for me, if I'm lucky, I'll make it twice, but I'll probably have to make it 3 or 4 times before I perfect it. The first time I'm making it, it's gonna look sloppy because it's not about presentation. It's about testing this recipe if the ingredients are accurate. A lot of times people are not thorough, so they're not going to tell you, well, oh, it's going to be very sticky, that's normal, it's going to be this and blah blah blah. A lot of the times people sometimes make websites just to make the website for whatever reason, and they throw out a bunch of copied and pasted nonsense, and you can tell. So it takes reworking, and then you build your own recipe based on somebody else's framework. Maybe they might be comfortable with working with the recipe the way it is, but I have to manipulate it to what I like, to what makes sense for me. By the time I get to second or third time, now I'm looking at what it actually looks like making it look like restaurant or store-bought. And it has to fit every criteria. It has to look like it came from the store or the way it's supposed to look. It has to taste the way it's supposed to taste. And I have to make it in a way where it's consistent, so now I can build it into like what I do at home on a regular basis. I don't have to take, you know, my book and constantly like go over and measure it. I just like know, I know off the top of my, so it's easy to like recreate. This is how it's going to feel to take information from the internet or take information from whatever sources that you feel that you can trust and implement it. You have to take it and rework it to your situation. You have to think about it. You have to take some time to consider it. Some things, they make sense right off the bat and you can fly into implementing it. For example, I always come back to the same thing, turning off the cell phone. It makes logical sense. They're tracking you on your cell phone. It's logical. There's nothing about it that needs to be thought about too long. It's easy to experiment with that one. Okay, I'm gonna go out with on airplane mode. Okay, they're still tracking me. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna turn it off. Okay, I looked in my pocket and the phone I turned off when I left home is on again. I'm just gonna leave it home altogether when it's off. Oh, they figured that I'm leaving because I turned it off. Let me maybe do something else and something else. And it might take you 6, 7, 8 times. And it might always be hit or miss. Who knows? But the fact is you're gonna see you might see some results here, a bit more there, but you're testing it out. The longer you stay gang stalked is the longer everybody starts experimenting. Gang stalkers are experimenting with you, you're experimenting with them, and it's a constant cat and mouse. It's just that you're making sure that you're not exhausted by the process because this is your actual life. You're not getting paid to do this. This is your actual life. Now, in a situation like mine, where people are not successful, where it's become exhausting, where there's no profit, where it's not a good time, where it's not funny anymore, where they're losing resources, where they're losing their reputation, etc., 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 the roles have reversed. They're in a grueling situation. They're in an uncomfortable nightmare. I'm the one who's at peace and kind of doesn't care and is moving on with my life. Nobody in this situation is happy. You have to make sure that even if you're not bursting at the seams with happiness, that you can at least be content. So for me, I put things into perspective all the time. Like I'll say to myself, if something happens or something annoying is going on, I'm like, why am I upset? I'm not the one that owes people money. Why am I upset? I'm not the one that has a terminal illness. Why am I upset? I'm not the one who has to go on the run. Yes, I might be followed around in the supermarket. Yes, I might be followed around on the street. Yes, something might happen and it's hit or miss. And I want to remind people of that. It's hit or miss. There are times I have to do things that are pre-planned. So they can tell from my emails, they could tell from different things, I have to do it. I'm prepared at that point that this is going to happen. But if it's something self-directed for myself, absolutely how are they going to follow me? They don't even know what I'm doing. So I want to lay that out there, that it is hit or miss and that is possible. That is possible to happen while they want to actively gang stalk you. You're adapting to the situation and you're making a commitment to adapt to the situation. But what was I saying with, what was I going through with this? Anyway, no one's happy here. It's either them or me, and I'm not going to let it be me. So it's going to be them. It is what it is. And that's how you have to look at it. This is your life. You don't just give things up. You don't just give your life up. And really, you know, you have to kind of look at it sort of, there were so many ways I looked at this situation when I was going through it. I'm a very optimistic person. I always believe things are going to work out. I always believe that because they do. Because they do. Because I know like it's not meant to punish me. I'm just supposed to learn. I know that I'm right with God. I know that I'm, you know, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to, even when it's difficult. And it's like if God is encouraging me through something difficult, it's because she wants me to make it through it. So, you know, going through it, I looked at it and I'm like, I'm not the first person in history who's had a very tough time, who's going through a very tough battle. Like, why not me? It's been everybody else. So, you know, you just kind of like, who cares? You keep going, you do what you have to do. And you just know like you're going to get out of it. No country has stayed in war their entire existence. You know, maybe there are some who have come close that you know, some countries keep bombing them. But I mean, there's going to be a time of peace is the point. It can't remain the same. the entire time. It just can't. And that's the only way that you have to look at it. There is always sunshine after the rain. You just want to make sure that when the cycle closes, you don't have to repeat it. You don't have behaviors that are going to force you back into repeating it, because believe me, you're going to get yourself back into the same jam. The point is for you to learn. You're not just doing it now to get out of the gang stalking and then you get into real life and you start the same stuff again. Every skill that you learn now is for forever, for the rest of your life. And that's why I say that you're probably not going to have the kind of life that you assumed before gang stalking happened. It's probably going to be a lot different than you assumed. And that is okay. This is where you get okay with it. Things that used to bother me before, like I'm telling you, like I don't even always need to clean spell work, to be honest with you. I do. I don't really need to though. It's just I'm immune to it. I'm immune to it. There's so much stuff that I am immune to. I can just tell it's happening. It's not doing anything. It's not having an effect. That is where you want to be with what you're going through. You want to numb yourself to your experience. My gang stalking journey is very heavily spiritual. I'm being spiritually attacked. It is a lot of it's a lot of spell work, which obviously means this is the chapter that I'm moving into and I cannot avoid it. If I'm getting immune to it, it means that I am meant to fight these kind of battles. It's just that, like, that's just how you have to look at it. That's how you have to deduce what you're going through. What you're going through is telling you what is going to happen. It might suck, but if somebody says, okay, I'm going to train you for a job and you don't know what the job is, and now you're on an army base in fatigues and you're learning how to use a gun, chances are you're going to be a soldier. You're going to be fighting. What logical reason? They're not putting you behind a desk on a sunny day. So you got to look at it that way. If you make it through this, and not everybody makes it. And like I said, I tell this story all the time of like when I figured out that there's no guarantee that you make it. The spiritual part needs to be conquered, or you're not, like, if that is not done, then you're not coming out of this. Gang stalking is not a normal phenomenon. The spiritual part needs to be conquered. It is the most important part, as above, so below. Once it gets wrapped up there, you can kind of relax and just wait it out. Just let it play itself out. At that point in time, you got to control your mind and not worry about how it's playing out. It doesn't really matter. You have to emotionally take yourself out of it. You just have to keep going on whatever it is that you have to do. And you can't really look at the circumstances as what they are right now. Right now, things look grueling. Right now, they look bad. Right now, it looks dismal. It always looks like that. You should see, listen, the first time I baked bread, the first couple times I baked bread, I was like, this is a mess. It wasn't forming, because if there was 100 grams of flour, there was 80 grams of water. It was a soup. I was like, how am I going to make this thing into a ball? I struggled with it for a while. Now it's so easy to me. It's so down pat. That's the point. In the beginning, everything is messy. Everything is, you can't imagine how anybody's dealing with it. And then you see people like myself come on here and we're calm and relaxed, because you must make a concerted effort to master your mind. You got to be the kind of person that could sit in fire and stay there. You got to be the kind of person who can deal with repercussions to your actions. What does that mean? The kind of person who can come online and talk against the cartel if need be. That's the kind of person that you need to be. You need to be the kind of person who says, it is what it is, come whatever may, and you stand on your principles. You stand on what you know you're supposed to do, no matter how it goes. You can't closely relate to ideas of, well, oh, I'm going to do this, or oh, this is going to happen, and the worst case scenario. You can choose either the worst or the best case scenario. Why would you choose that one? It just comes down to mastering yourself. If I had to put it as simply as possible, gang stalking is mastering yourself. As soon as you master yourself, you are over like 80% of the crap that they throw at you. You are mastering your response. You're mastering your anxiety spiking, your cortisol levels spiking from, oh my God, someone's following me. Oh my God, somebody did this. Oh my God, this happened. Like, you got to master all of that. That takes mind over matter. Sometimes your body's panicking and your mind is like, I'm going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. I'm going to figure it out. You go to bed, you say your prayers, you do your meditation, and you figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, then you ask God to figure it out. And listen, you become very dependent on God in this situation, like a baby for everything, for everything. And God stays close to you like a baby because it's a new journey, it's a new chapter. It's a very critical chapter to get through. So you're not ever left alone. They don't trust you to be by yourself. They have to guide this process very closely. So you have the assistance that you need, you just can't see it. You just can't see the guardian energies that are around you. If you were to see them, you would know that there's a lot of them there. There's a lot of help. There's somebody there for everything. So you gotta just look at your situation. I'm really talking to people who are on the right side of karma or who are trying to make positive decisions. I'm not talking about people who are evil, who are suffering the consequences of their actions, and now they're trying to like turn it around. Karma is karma. It is what it is. If you're in this situation, you are probably bringing karma to people that you don't know. I think at this place in time that we're in, maybe not people who were gang stalked 10 years ago, but I want to say people in 2024, you are much closer to the resolution of your situation than you might probably realize. And I think that every year a new batch of people come in that are being initiated or gang stalked. I think a new batch come in, and I don't think many people make it out for lack of information, for lack of belief, for lack of faith, for lack of information, for being led astray at every turn. It has been so difficult for me. It has been so touch and go. This is a very well thought out, generally well put together plot, especially when you just never imagined in your life that people are really like this. People are really like this. That's, first of all, that was one of my first hurdles. Like, people actually have no compassion. Like, it makes you stop complaining though, which is a good thing. So you stop repeating the same story. Oh, this happened to me. This happened to me. I found myself telling the story and not even focusing so much on like the gang stalking part of like the being followed part, because it was like, I don't know. It's like, you just get to a point where you're like, you don't know what they've told people, even people that they haven't told. We've all faced it where it's like people have no sympathy, people have no dignity, no compassion, no remorse, nothing. So it's like, you kind of get over that hurdle. It is what it is. This is really just for you to get through. For anybody going through anything, and if you've found my channel, experienced my channel, listen, I swear to God, please take the information, look over the information. I get attacked so bad spiritually for putting this information out. I get attacked so badly because this is not information where it's like they stopped getting paid and then they walked away. So it's like, oh, let me tell you about my experiences, but people walked away. This is about me forcing that door shut. And they don't want that to exist. They don't want people to know that that exists. If you look at my channel should be blown up way bigger than it is right now, but it's not. And they don't want that to get out. That doesn't just affect like one person. This affects a system of people. This affects a whole network. This is international. This is everywhere in every country. They want to roll it out. I believe it 100% that they're using people who are being gang stalked right now or have been in the past, and they're going to roll it out. They want to roll it out because to them it's like ingenious. And it's like the mark of the beast almost. It's like, well, you don't believe in this, or you don't like this, or you don't want to do this, then this is what we're going to do to you. So, my best advice in this situation, please desensitize yourself numb yourself to it as much as possible, not to the lessons, but to the pressure. You know, relax, but, you know, don't don't play into it. Just look at it almost like a stage of a video game that you're not trying to stay too long. Look at it like that. You have to, in order for your mental health. You have to. The first time you do something, obviously, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. You're going to cry. You're going to grumble. You're going to complain. And then by the time they keep, because they're going to keep doing the same thing, you get to like the 25th, 30th time they're doing it, and it's like, I'll be on my laptop and like something pops open or something happens, or and it's just like, it looks so ridiculous to me. Now I'm like, I was really frightened over this. A window opened. So what? I don't even close the window. I do what I have to do. That's it. Like, I was almost like ashamed of myself when I started looking at what it was that I was actually like getting scared about. Somebody approaches me in the supermarket and asks a question, and it's a very weird question, it's a very obvious question, but the question is not a question. It's like letting me know that somebody's following me, but it's like, what are they going to do with that information? It's not something that they can do anything with. It's like they're just trying to let me know that they're following me. And I'm looking at the person asking me the question. I'm like, what's this person gonna do? This person can't beat me in a fight. So, and then I had the period where I used to like, when people used to go out of their way to follow me, I'd just be weird right back. I'd just like, just start following them right back, but not like following them to be like aggressive. I'd just like keep walking behind them, taking my time, getting in the aisle, reaching over them, over their face to look at exactly what they're looking at, making like my hands brush theirs, pretending that I wasn't noticing them. And then I started noticing these people have PTSD too. They have PTSD because now they're like behaving like someone who's been gang stalked. Someone who hasn't been gang stalked before would be like, excuse me, do you not see me? Or like, be weird, or like, look at you. But first of all, they're guilty because they know what they're there to do. And secondly, it's like they have PTSD as well. Some of these people have PTSD. I was being gang stalked by people who had been gang stalked themselves. They were very scared to come in the store. They were scared when they're walking out of the store. They'd like look both ways. They'd be scared to walk out. They'd like very quickly run to the exit. It was like bizarre behavior because in the very beginning, I would be there with like other people and we'd just be like looking at each other like, did you just see that? How can I be scared by people who are scared themselves? So it's how you take the situation. You need to differentiate between a real threat, which there is none. In the case of being followed, there is no real threat. I'm just here to tell you that. And doesn't that make you feel better? Finally, I have some good news. There's no real threat. These are regular people that they found on the street, and they're bullying half of them. There's no real threat. People coming in the comments, there's no threat of that. It's just fucking annoying. It's annoying and it's distracting. There's no real threat. Once you get over it, people gaslighting, there's no real threat. There are real crimes that are being broken. There are real relatives that have betrayed you, which you know they've lightened your load. If you ever had dreams of like moving to Hawaii, now's the time, or just living life on your terms, now's the time. Nothing's holding you back. Not these people. And people like myself, I always fantasize about like moving out of my country, going away and never talking to anybody back. I've been like that from a kid. Always, 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 always. Like I always just disassociate and I'm like, I would leave this place in a heartbeat. Not because I don't like people, not because I don't have attachments to people or anything. Maybe I don't. Maybe my attachments are not that strong. But it's like I could care less. So it's like maybe just for me, I personally, I took it a lot better than maybe they expected. I was confused by a couple people. I'm like, really? But as far as like, was it gonna like make me like suffer emotionally I was gonna stay up at night and cry about it. Probably not. Probably not. Don't care. Hold on, guys. Let's get rid of this right here. Report harassment. And then let's go ahead and just get this person out of my channel, period. Moving forward. Anyway, so yeah, it's like you do not need to take this thing more seriously than it needs to be taken, honestly. You're getting yourself there. If you stay long enough, you will get there. You have to be able to differentiate between real thoughts, real threats. There's a real threat to your finances. That is a real threat because you're going to suffer from that. There's a real threat to, I mean, obviously your privacy because they're using your privacy to work against you. There's a real threat to, what would I say is another real threat? Your living situation. I notice they love to like, you know, get people homeless, you know, play around with landlords, do all this kind of stuff. There's real threats there. But as far as like being followed everywhere, not really. Do you enjoy it? No. Is it going to take a long time to get used to people trying to crowd you out in public spaces? Yes. It takes a long time. But eventually you get to a point where, you know, you try to break it up as much as possible and then it's hit or miss. It doesn't like, it's like when it is hit or miss and you're prepared for it mentally and you're like going out and you're like, people are going to show up in my environment and things are going to happen. It's like you're prepared for it and you're like, nothing's going to happen. And if you need to soothe yourself, if you need to calm yourself down, whatever needs to happen, it happens and you move forward. And that's it. You need to get over things very quickly. And I know, you know, for people suffering in these kinds of situations, for people going through this level of disruption to their day-to-day life and having to make such hard adjustments in order just to have some peace, where you realize that your environment is not changing and that you have to change in order to survive, in order to get by. I know someone coming and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to be strong. It's difficult. First of all, let me put a pin in that. I'm West Indian and they force us to take accountability even when other people are wrong. It was a very frustrating thing as a child. It's like, no matter what would happen, their first question is always like, well, what did you do? What did you do to make them mad? What did you do to for this to happen? It was very frustrating because it was like sometimes, a lot of times it's like people are blatantly wrong, but it grooms you to have a mentality where it's like, what can I do to better my situation? Or what can I do to not even be in that situation in general? So when you see stupidity coming towards you, you could see it coming and you could take a step aside and just let it fall down beside you. You don't need to engage in it. You don't need to engage in conflict with people where it's like going back and forth and doing all of that. You don't need to, you know, put yourself in a situation where you're like chasing people in public and like running them down to take pictures or videos of them or whatever. Like you are putting yourself in a situation that you cannot give people a storyline. You don't give people a storyline like, oh, this person's lost their mind. Oh, this person does these kind of things. Oh, this person's whatever. And you're going to keep yourself in a situation that if you are so lucky that you get the opportunity that you can report it and the report can be taken seriously, that people can still take you seriously, that they can still say, you know what, you dealt with this, excuse me, in an admirable way. You kept your composure about yourself. You kept cool with what was going on. There are always going to be people who are not going to be compassionate. There are always going to be people who are going to question your story. These are not your people and it doesn't matter. And you have to be selective about where you put your attention. And to be honest with you, I'm very spiritual. Either way, that's something that I have to learn. Either way, I have to be, you know, Abraham Hicks calls it a selective sifter. I have to look at everything that is on my plate and I have to decide what I want to pay attention to. because while they're knocking down your business, or they're trying to get you out of your job, or they're trying to get you out of your house, they are going harder to distract you with silly conflicts and silly nonsense. While they see you working hard, that's when you're going to get stupid emails. That's when you're going to get phone calls. That's when you're going to get a bunch of stuff. When you're supposed to be praying and meditating, that's when they attack you hardest. That's when you're going to have all kinds of things happen, all kinds of distractions, because they don't want you to repeat that action. That is the action you need to repeat more. You're going to find by the time you sit down to check your books, that's the time where there's an emergency or something's happening. Every time you have to eat, they're bothering you. I used to have employees, and when I sit down for lunch, it's like, oh, can you help me? No, no, I'm going to lock the door now. Don't come back here again. Simple. They're trying to contribute to you having either no relaxation, or not being able to take care of the things that you're supposed to be taking care of, or whatever the case is. There are things that are being delayed or pushed back, or whatever the case is. And it's like, I've had to be the person who's had to be like, you know what? I'm going to put a whole day aside for this thing now. And I don't care how long it takes. And I don't care the fact that I've wasted a day. It is what it is. This situation is not meant to be easy, but it's almost meant to be like a crash course. And the product, not the byproduct, the product of being gang stalked is you emerging as a new person. That is the point. Whether or not it's the point you're going to make it. You're going to make it the point. You're going to, you're the star of this situation. You're the lead player here. Everything is revolving around you. People wake up with you on their mind every day. And believe me, if you believed in energy, that is a lot of energy that you're getting for free. People have to fight for this sort of energy. I'll give you an example. Me coming and making a YouTube channel. Say if I wanted to make a YouTube channel about I don't know, something I like, whatever, like not gang stalking, but let's say I wanted to make a YouTube channel about planting. Do you know how long I would have to work to get to the amount of subscribers that I have right now? Once you mention gang stalking, hashtag gang stalking once, you're going to automatically get subscribers, and you're going to automatically get engagement. Automatically. Is it going to be the type that you like? No. But if you go through like really big pages, celebrity pages, none of their engagement is the type of engagement that they like either. They just have been desensitized to it, or they know that's how things are, and they just move around, or they don't pay attention. They don't even talk about it. They don't even complain about it. It's just what it is. Now, if you're giving gang stalking advice that's actually going to be critical to people, like it's actually really going to help people, and it's not just like complaining or, you know, getting on here and like venting all the time, which absolutely you can and you should, and you're allowed to do that as well, because it's very frustrating. But if you're giving critical advice, you're going to have that many people. If I wasn't mentioning things that made people nervous, say I was just being, you know, gang stalked by a regular company that produces paper, was the one paying for me to be gang stalked. Believe me, this whole comment section would be full of people. They would be going out of the way. They would be crossing the line in all kinds of ways. It's because people are scared that I'm a witch, and they hear that I'm being gang stalked by the cartel, and they're putting the two together, and they're like, oh, the cartel's not able to gang stalk this witch, and maybe I might not want to really get involved in this. They listen for a little bit, and sometimes they delete their own comments. The people that come in here, it's the chief gang stalker who has no more support, and he gets frustrated because all the energetic work he's doing is not working. So he comes himself and he just says whatever stupidity, and it's like nonsense. If you look at the minimal comments I get, it's like one day it's like bashing, the next day it's like, I really like your hair, I love this video. It's like somebody who has multiple personality disorder or something. Like, it's just like, that is what it's boiled down to. So it's not even like gang stalking anymore. It's just like one person stalking, you know, who's desperately pleading with anybody they can help them, because the situation is dire. It's very dire. I have so many videos that I've talked about like how to get yourself in the position where You're draining people's resources, you're draining their energy, you're draining their motivation, you're draining their passion for what they're doing. It's not funny when a person is either laughing along with you or they just don't care and it's not affecting them. You feel kind of stupid. You got to get yourself over and over and over to that point. And it takes the discipline to get there. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Because they're not just going to stop because they want to stop or because you want them to stop. They probably don't even want to stop because the person wants to stop paying them, whoever it is that's paying them, whatever, organization, company, person, whatever, wants to stop paying them. They don't even want to stop then because they don't want the money to stop. So you have to recognize, like, you're up against something that is going to be persistent no matter what. You need to develop the same attitude and learn from them too. They've taught me so much stuff. They've taught me how to tap in and out of certain energies, how to behave. I've seen how they've been coached. I've emulated a couple behaviors here and there. There are things where I'm like, okay, well, that is what not to do. I am never going to do that because that is not working out too well. Yeah, to be honest with you, if I'm being very honest, I very much admire the person who is, I admire John Ferrer, I do. I admit it, I do. His stamina and persistence is something that I've never seen. I've never seen anything like that. And I keep saying, I was like, God could really use a person like that. That is what you need. That is what you need to be. And he motivates me. I'm like, John Ferrer wouldn't give up right now. Let me get back to my work. John Ferrer wouldn't do this. John Ferrer wouldn't do that. I mean, you gotta give it to whether he's doing it because he is scared to death for his life or possessed or mentally unwell, it is still something to see somebody not give up. A normal person would have just gone on the run, got a facelift, and moved to another country, transitioned into a woman, and moved to like a part in Africa or something. A normal person would have looked at their last 10 or 20 grand in the bank and would have said, let me be realistic. But he didn't. He is going down with the ship. And you gotta respect somebody who behaves that way. And you gotta learn something from people who behave that way. It's like they're never giving up. Like I know that in my heart, I know that he has to like not be able to physically move for him to not bother me. Like not be able to physically, he has to not exist. And I definitely have concerns that he's gonna haunt me from the grave. He is. He is. If he has a say in it, there's no way I'm having any peace in my life. Because that man looks at me. I don't know how to do spell work. I keep saying it. I know nobody will believe me at this point, but he keeps looking at me like I destroyed his life. And I'm the one that got gang stalked. But I have to be realistic. Like, somebody's fighting for their life and they blame me because in their mind, their life was great before I came in, before they forced themselves into my life. I didn't come into the picture. They forced themselves into my life. Everybody's blaming me because it's like, why won't I pass away? Why won't I just let myself be homeless? Why won't I just let people take everything that I have? And it's like, this is the story, but it motivates me. It's like, I know they're not going to stop. So why would I stop? What else am I going to do? I don't know if they just want me to sit and like stare at the ceiling all day. I'm going to get depressed. Of course I'm going to work. Of course I'm going to do the things that I'm supposed to. Of course I'm going to like, I was a workaholic when they met me. So it's going to be that way. But I want to be sympathetic. I know that I push myself a lot and I know that I have very high standards of myself when it comes to everything that I do. So I know that I've had to learn not to be judgmental of people when I think they're making excuses not to do something because I don't know what a person's going through personally. I've had to learn that. I don't always understand it. I'll be honest. I do not always understand it. However, I will say I've had to be understanding, but I don't have those standards for myself. I don't understand me not getting something done. I don't even consider me not getting something done. I don't think it's possible that I'm not going to get it done, even if it's tough. And then I'm not doing it so that later on I could be like, oh, do you know how hard it was? I expect people to not ask or not care. People generally do not care about what you're doing, how hard it was, whatever. You're doing this for yourself. That's the point. You're surviving this for yourself. And if you're stuck in this cycle of being a gang stalker who is also a victim, who's been sucked into a world that you don't know how to get out of, or you're a drug mule, or whatever other circumstances that exist, you're doing this for yourself. And then you're going to take the skills that you learned here with no weights on your hands or your feet. When you get light and you think like this, when you get this crap off of your back and you think like this, do you know what you're going to be capable of? Be very seriously. If you can get things done, irregardless of people following you all everywhere, money constantly draining out of your hands, people constantly fighting you, people constantly like micro focusing on you, the minute you break free, why would you start anything from scratch? You have the determination and the persistence to start something big and handle it, because that's nothing to you. Because you're walking the streets every day and you're like, I can't believe there's nobody out here. I can't believe I broke it. Like, that's the kind of stuff I thank God for. I get on the street and it's like, I'm just like, thank you. Oh my God. You said this would happen and I can't believe like it's happening. I'm free. I broke out. Thank you. I go anywhere and it's like, thank you. And this is why they always try to make sure that I know the days that they can catch me. They want to make sure that I know that they're like, ah, we caught you. Because they can't catch me for a couple hours. They don't know where to go. They start sending different people different places. They'll make people take pictures and just stand there. And they're probably not taking a picture, but just stand there with their camera phone for like 10 minutes, like at me. Video, making me feel... But it's like, are you kidding? Do you know how bad this was? This used to be 65 times a day. So the one person here a day, who cares? Thank you. Thank you. I'm still grateful. I'm still happy. That's where you kind of get to. That's the point that you kind of get to. So anyway, I hope it's encouraging to kind of reframe things, think about it in a different way. Think about the fact that you're here to just improve yourself, to master yourself. This human flesh that we're in, this body that we're in, the body that we're in makes it very, it makes it very tough for us to master ourselves because we leave room for negotiation with things. We fall victim to pain. We fall victim to pressure. We fall victim to things being difficult. So just being a human being, like just virtue of being human already makes things difficult. That's why it's important to master being in your body, being in your flesh. It is important. You want the pain to end. You want the pain of gang stalking to end. But if you can get over the pain, then you can grow. If you go to the gym, you just don't like being physically uncomfortable. But as soon as you get used to that, then you can sculpt your body. If you're running, you want the pain of not being able to breathe to stop. That's why you want to stop. You got to push yourself past that point. And all of a sudden, I used to run cross-country distance running. So I tell you, all of a sudden, you can breathe. It's like going to a foreign country, you can't speak the language. All of a sudden, you start hearing it as if it's in English, like you can understand it. All of a sudden, you're like, whoa, I understood that. It's the same thing with anything you're going to do. A spiritual practice, communicating with God, practicing a skill set, mastering something, and mastering being gang stalked is just mastering yourself. So if you look at it as enduring, some things is just enduring, honestly. It's tough. It's like some things I don't know what lesson I'm supposed to learn from it. They're just bullying. They're just being annoying, right? But some things you can really get a lesson from it. Some things you can say, today I'm going to go outside, and I did this for months. Today I'm going to go outside. I'm not going to have an anxiety attack when people pop up. I'm gonna walk through the crowd. And you gotta think about it like being bullied in high school. You just have to get through that hallway, and when you're done, you can like breathe a sigh of relief and go about your day. You gotta look at it like that. You're getting spiritually attacked, and you're like, one day I won't even feel this. One day I'm gonna get to the point where this is not gonna bother me. I'm not, listen, please do not think I'm crazy. I used to meditate, and this guy used to just like tap my hand, tap my feet, and it's like my body part is moving. There's no one there, and I can't come out of the meditation because I will be damned. I will be damned if it took me 25 minutes to get in a meditative state, and I'm gonna lose that to get up and freak out about something I know is happening. I know this guy's like moving around in my house. I can see his ass. All the time he does it. Every time someone comes to the door, he's not sure who's there. He projects his ass into my house. It's like, I already know this is happening. You just got to get yourself to the point. You know you're being gang stalked. You cannot still be jumpy. After like 6 months, you got to like, every 6 months, you got to bring yourself, I would say 3 months, I would say, and then like every month, and then every couple weeks, and then every couple of days, you got to take the power away from these people. Seriously. And I'm not just saying this because I found myself in a place of peace. I only found the peace because I mastered myself. They're not letting you have peace voluntarily. They bother me every day. I just don't register it anymore. Things are happening every day. It's obvious. Every single day, they're playing with my things. They're playing with my money. They're playing with all kinds of things. I'm just not registering it the same way because I already know. I prayed about this and I know what's going to happen. It is what it is. I just got to wait it out. I'm at that point. I'm just waiting it out. So anyway, this is my what I have to say today. Thank you guys. I've kind of added a section on the main page where I've added the playlist that I've made. I have 2 playlists, one for like kind of spiritual healing, so things that I use for meditation, like videos I use to meditate. These videos are significant because they only have a certain amount of talking. Unless you can ignore what people are saying during the talking of the meditation, which some meditation is too much talking. No thinking, no working anything out, no imagining a bunch of stuff. That's going to happen in your head on its own anyway. You're fighting, not fighting, but you're relaxing that. You're relaxing the impulse to think and to work things out. You are sitting there on your phone the whole time. You didn't think of anything you had to work out. You're watching videos on YouTube. All of a sudden you lay down to meditate. Now is the time you want to think about your taxes. You want to think about this. You want to think about that. You want to think about the bills, the da-da-da. No. So these videos are very specific, and they're timed, usually over like 45 minutes. That's the amount of time you want to sit for the meditation. If you got to wake up earlier, then you got to wake up earlier. Do the meditation, maybe then go back to sleep. So there's one that is spiritual, like, I don't know, I think it might have songs and stuff like that on it. I don't know, I'll check it again. The other one is information, it's called Informational Resources, and that one is like a dump, and I'm not done yet, and I don't know when I'll be done because there's like so much stuff that I want to put in it. But that one is very practical gang stalking information. When people are freshly gang stalked, they have no idea. Who are these people? What do they want? How do they track you? Blah, 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 blah. So like your top hard hitting questions. Actually, I will make a video about that because that's a video I would have been able to use when I came in. I'm kind of just like walking through it, kind of like almost like doing a course. So I started off basic with my story and I'm like working through it. But I'm gonna make a video called Top Gang Stalking Questions. And these were questions that I had when I first was going through it. I was like, who are these people? What do they want? Blah, blah, blah. And I'll just kind of go through what you can expect. So and I'll find a way to pin it maybe to I don't know how to pin videos on this thing, but I'll find a way to make it stand out on the page where it'll just basically be like things that you can put to rest mentally. Like, no one's gonna kidnap you in a back alley. They don't need to spend this kind of money to kidnap you. They want to abuse you. They want you to suffer. So I'm gonna make a video, maybe that'll be my next video, top gang stalking questions. And then yeah, the other playlist is like just very practical things like that. What is gang stalking? I give a general framework of how to break out of gang stalking, and literally it's not elegant. I wish I had a better solution. I can only tell you what I did and what I know, which is that you just have to endure it. That's what God told me the whole time, and it seems to be the best way, because if there was another way, then I probably would have known. Not to say that God can't like snap her fingers and get me out of this, and which just leads me to believe there's something that I need to learn from the process. So it is what it is. But that's the kind of videos that are in that playlist. So if you're new here, I get a lot of new followers when I go, or subscribers when I go live. That is the playlist that you want to look at. Go through it. Some of the videos are long, because I really try to cover as much as I can, remember on each topic, screenshot things as much as possible. And I think I'm going to try to find a way to kind of like put everything in a sequential order for people who are, it's like going to be like a little crash course. If you're being gang stalked and you find it within like maybe a week of consuming the information, you're going to feel so much stronger, so much more well equipped to get through it. And hopefully we can take down from like 2 years to like maybe, I don't know, 6 months, because you know nobody's coming to help. Nobody's coming to help. I don't come on here very polished or pretty. I don't like makeup. Honestly, I was gonna say I don't wear makeup. I hate it. I don't like it. That's because it's more important. I feel like this is a life or death situation, and I'm more interested in like giving you guys information. And sometimes I am not my best self and I'm not in my best mood. I try, but I am still mastering myself. I'm a good ways there, but this is a lifelong thing, you know. So I just try my best. So work with me if you're a new person subscribing. Some days, yeah, I'm gonna be, you know, a little aggressive with people. But anyway, that is it. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me, and have a good night.